This is Yasmin's Learning Belly Dance and how to make your tribal fusion belt or just a belt in general for belly dance. I also have a setup for how to make your bra, but I have a tutorial already on that, but this is, I'm making a set of bra and belt set. So as I do the video series, you'll see the matching of the bra and the belt, okay? So, well, first, this is the intro, so we're just going to first talk about what you could use, what you could need, of course, and some basic things you will always need. First of all, I have this board here. It's a type of mat. Now, you can go get these at your local fabric store. They run a good price, too, but they range in price depending on the size. I'm using a smaller one. I don't need a very large one when I'm making these type of products. So, that being said, with the mat, you also have, usually I keep myself at least 2 pairs of scissors when I'm making these. I have probably 12 pairs of different types of scissors. These are basic fabric cutting scissors. This pair right here usually runs about $6.99 or so. Then you have this. This is a very helpful blade. Now, this one is a cuttery blade. Now, you can actually get the same brand matched to your board. They actually sell that at the fabric store as well. And this has a blade cover, as you can see. And that's the blade, and then you can push the blade cover up. Always cover your blade back when you're not using it. This is a good way to cut your fabric on a straight line. So, you could actually have an even straight cut with this. And you can actually get the blade switched out as well when it's getting dull, and it just twists right off on the back there. This is the second type of pair of scissors that I use if I'm going to make straps for my belly dance bras, or even when I'm making my travel belts and I want a design cut. And also, this type of scissor specifically actually helps with shredding those type of materials, like such as chiffon, that when you cut it with standard scissors, it leaves a shedding going on at the end, like the little strips hanging. With this type of scissor here, it will stop the shredding because it gives it this actual design in it, and it gives it an edge where it won't do the shredding. So that's why I use these type as well. These usually can run anywhere up towards from 30 to 50 for those pair. And then always a tape measure, the clothing measure for your inches. Now, when you're making a belt, you want it to be shaped to you. That's the good thing about when you make your own belt. You have the measurements correct for sure. You always just want to measure yourself priorly and then measure your material out when you're cutting. Okay? So that's another thing you should have. I have a few different types of thread here. I always keep a black base thread. Always is a strong thread. And I may be one of the only people possibly, but I'm sure there are others. I use a weaving thread. I believe it's the type of thread they use when they do hair weaving and beauty parlors and such. So you can actually get this at your local hair product store, of course. They usually sell these in spools. So I always keep that because it's very strong and durable for your bras and or belts. Then I have 2 styles of invisible thread, a darker one and a cream white color of the invisible thread. You've seen in my other tutorials. And then I always get a color to match the products that I will be sewing onto the belt and or bra. And that's why you'll see this kind here as well. So, and then there's the pins. This helps keep the trims and stuff in place while you are sewing them on. Some people use those, some don't, but I'm referencing them to them so you'll know what you need to use. Okay, and moving along to a design. So I have plenty of different types of things here, as you can clearly see, that I'm going to be using on the belt that I'm going to be making in this tutorial. So, first I have about I have like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different types of trim, not including my chains. The trim that I'll be putting on is going to be this here, this one, this one. This one's more of a bottom trim because it hangs a bit, which is going to match to the bra. And then this trim is going to be closer to the top, and this one will be under that. But I'll show you a simple layout really soon. And then I have different chain types, which the chains usually loop and hang around the hips and the hip bone area, and on the side of the hip, and then on the back of the butt area as well. And these here, these guys are quite interesting and good to use for a base of alignment too. So they usually would go above your below your first trim and between your second trim, just so that way you have a baseline. Some people even use them to go downward on the actual belt. Now, of course, it's up to you how wide you would want your belt to be given the inches of length of the belt. I'm going to show you the material I'm going to use. Oh, and these here, these are rings. You can find these in your local fabric store in the aisle where you would make purses and or belts, actually. These are going to be the basis to tie the belts in front of you, okay? Or some belts tie on the side and or in the back, but I'm going to do a front-shaped tie. So the material at the end of the belts would be tied on, would be sewed onto these, and then you would have a string type of thing to tie them together. And that's why I have the wool yarn. So that's going to be, I'm going to braid two separate ones, and that's going to be our tie mechanism to put the belt on. Now, after talking about the trim, this is going to be the material for the actual belt. This is a back base piece that I may or may not use to cover it, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. So the other day I cut out my length of the belt. So when you're measuring for your tribal belt and or belly dance belt, you go by your measurements of your waist. I have large hips, so I measure, my belts always sit on my hips. So you want to measure in that area, if you, depends on where you wear your belt, of course. Most people do wear them on their hips. So what I did was I measured out the complete inches. Now the inches in a circle, that's when you measure around. So I actually measured it out flat afterwards. So I had it circled, then I folded it. Then I checked the folded measurement. Then I checked the full length of the measurement, which gave me this piece here. So this piece I cut actually on this board you see here in front of you. And I used my cutlery blade here. And then I cut it straight across. Okay, giving me a pretty good straight line. And I measured out the inches that I wanted it to be at least 5 inches from my hip down, okay? So that's how I got the length of this. But this is double of that. So this is 10 inches down from my hip to like my top of my thigh, a little bit lower than top of my thigh. So the reason why I doubled it was because I'm going to fold it. This is the middle. I marked it. Always after you cut, mark the middle of your bra because of your belt, because in the middle of your belt, this is probably going to be where your medallion would be, or your point, your mark point, where it's going to sit right in the middle of the butt right here. I will get up and show you. So that part should actually sit about here, about right there, okay? So that is why I marked that, so that way I won't forget where that is. So I marked it with one of the little pins. So with that, if I took this and put it around me, now when I do this here, this way I can see where it's going to meet, like that. Now this isn't going to be this long, obviously. Now like I was saying before, the reason why I cut it 10 inches down instead of 5 like the length I'm going to have it is because I'm going to sew it in half there. So I'm actually going to fold it downward like that, and then I'm going to sew it down there. So then that's going to be folded like that. So you actually, that's the length of the actual belt's going to be, about there. Okay, so that's what it'll be. So I always double it up, the length that I want it to be, so that way I can fold it and sew it so it can be a double layer. So if you don't do that, then you always have a back base to it, and it means you have to sew 2 different fabrics together in that instance. So you see now some ideas of what you should have for your tribal and or belly dance belt. This video is more of a reference for what you could use and to start to give you a concept and an idea of what to do with the belt. Not necessarily you do tribal, you don't have to, you know, use my video just because you are a tribal dancer, but it could help you maybe more so because you could use some of the same items that I use. So the next video that comes up in this video series, which would be part 2 to the intro, you will see a design forming of the belt. So I'm going to be using some of this here. This would be across it, like so. Then you will see something like this at the top, as you can see. And then I would have these in between to line across, okay? So you get a concept of what I'm going to be doing. And at the bottom, there's going to be chain hanging around my hip for the belt. So you have to sit down and think about concepts that you're going to do, concepts that you would use, what design you want, and your bra is going to match to your belt. That way it gives you something to work with. If you already have a bra that you started working on, you can actually get the same type of materials and match it up. Okay, it doesn't have to be identical to the bra, but it has to have some kind of accent, some kind of something that matches it, so that way it can be considered a set. Okay, so some of the same embellishments and trims even, that will help you. So get your materials together and get ready to make your first belt, whether it is any other style or tribal. Thanks for watching. This has been Yasmin learning belly dance, how to make your belly dance belt.